What can you actually do with, say, $5,000? Maybe you're thinking a down payment on a car or tackling some student debt, maybe finally booking that vacation you keep dreaming about. But what if I told you that exact amount, just $5,000, was the entire launch pad for a billion-dollar empire?
It sounds kind of crazy when you put it like that, doesn't it?
Right. Built by one woman, no investors lined up, no fancy business degree on the wall, absolutely zero blueprint to follow. And look, this isn't just another, standard entrepreneur story. It feels more like, well, a story of quiet defiance.
A rebellion almost.
Exactly. It's this really captivating puzzle. How does a woman who spent 7 years selling fax machines door to door
7 long years.
make a really common wardrobe frustration and basically ignite a global revolution?
Yeah.
Building a brand now worth over $1 billion. So today, we're diving deep. We want to uncover those subtle, often missed strategies she used. The ones most entrepreneurs, frankly, just don't see.
Yeah, the things that aren't in the usual playbook.
Totally. This isn't just about the fabric or the fit of Spanx. It's about the silent power of belief, that fierce obsession, and honestly, the radical courage to say no when the whole world is shouting yes. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, could be articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and we really dig in, pull out the key insights, and give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. For this deep dive, we've been immersed in excerpts from the Sara Blakely story, Building Spanx from $5,000. And honestly, this narrative is just packed with insights, hidden lessons, unexpected turns.
It really is. There's so much below the surface.
Our mission today is pretty focused. We're going to meticulously sift through this amazing journey and really unearth the core, often counterintuitive principles that took Sara Blakely from a simple personal idea to a global powerhouse.
And it's truly fascinating when you step back because her story fundamentally disrupts, maybe even challenges, the conventional wisdom about how you build a successful company today.
Right. The whole VC-funded scale-at-all-cost model.
Exactly. For years, we've been sort of conditioned to think that's the only path. You need venture capital, aggressive scaling, constant external validation. What Sara Blakely did was, well, almost the exact opposite in many ways. Her journey is this powerful testament to an alternative way, a path that often gets overlooked.
Absolutely. She just decided to write her own rules. So the big question for this deep dive, the one we really want to get to the bottom of for you, is this. How did Sara Blakely, starting with so little, with such an unconventional background, how did she defy every single expectation to create Spanx, a brand that became globally recognized and worth over $1 billion?
And crucially, it's not just the how, the tactical steps. We also need to dig into the why. Why did her unique, often quite solitary approach resonate so deeply? Why did it ultimately work so well?
Yeah.
And maybe even more importantly, why are these principles, which seem so obvious now, looking back, why are they so often missed in that, mad dash for quick wins and fast growth? If we really connect this to the bigger picture, it's about understanding that invisible scaffolding, the stuff that supports massive, lasting success. And often that scaffolding is built on these seemingly small, maybe even counterintuitive choices.
Like a master class in building from the inside out.
Exactly. A masterclass in resilience and impact built step by step.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've really tried to distill her journey down into several core themes. When you look at them together, they reveal that quiet, almost stealthy power behind her success. First up, we'll explore her completely unique financial mindset, how she just totally redefined what money was for.
Which is foundational, really.
Definitely. Then we'll pivot to her unconventional career strategy and her, distinctive take on building real wealth. After that, we dig into the success habits and unique behaviors, the stuff that really set her apart.
The daily practices, the mindset things.
Exactly. Then we'll look at her guiding life philosophy and decision-making framework like her internal compass. Then, how she used power thinking and social influence, not in a manipulative way, but to reshape things.
Authentically.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, we'll analyze her really extraordinary crisis strategy and long-term game. That's what ensured Spanx could endure, even through tough times. So by the end of this, you should have a really solid, multifaceted understanding of what made her journey so incredibly impactful. Let's start right at the beginning, with that financial mindset. Sara Blakely, she didn't grow up wealthy. No trust funds, no elite networks. Instead, she was this keen observer. She watched how people around her dealt with money.
Interesting. What did she see?
She saw how it could be this source of intense fear for some, how others spent their whole lives just chasing it. Or, kind of tragically, how people let it define their entire self-worth. And apparently, from a pretty young age, she knew she wanted something different, something way beyond just being financially free.
So not just having money, but something else.
Exactly. She craved the freedom to create purely on her own terms, to chart her own path without those external pressures or financial handcuffs. And just think about her early jobs. Not exactly a direct line to billionaire status. She was a character at Disney World for a bit.
Goofy, I think. Or maybe Chip and Dale.
Ah, maybe. Then, those 7 grueling years selling fax machines door to door for Danka. Imagine the grind.
Oh, brutal. Cold calling, rejection all day long.
Day after day, trying to sell machines people often didn't even want. And she failed the LSAT, like twice. Got rejected from law school. Most people would look at that period and just see frustration, detours, failures even.
Right. Wasted time, maybe.
But for Sara Blakely, all of that, especially those tough sales years, became this incredible emotional capital, as she put it. It was like a crucible.
Forging resilience.
Totally. It forged this amazing resilience, sharpened her observation skills, and instilled this fierce determination for something much bigger. It taught her how to handle no and just keep going.
And that period, that unlikely MBA, as she calls it, leads us right to that pivotal moment, the $5,000 catalyst. She saved that money, every penny, from selling those fax machines. A really humble amount, right?
Tiny, in startup terms.
And she made a choice that most people would think was just completely reckless. She invested all of it, every single dollar, into one idea.
The footless pantyhose.
Exactly, which immediately makes you ask, in a business world totally obsessed with venture capital, incubators, angel investors,
Yeah.
why did she actively, deliberately avoid all of that? Her thinking was incredibly clear and really strategic. She just had this unwavering belief that keeping 100% ownership would give her absolute creative freedom.
Yeah, she famously said, I didn't want someone else's voice in the room telling me no.
That's it. That fierce commitment to ownership meant she consciously gave up the speed that a big chunk of outside money could have brought.
Sure, faster scaling, maybe more resources.
Right. But in return, she'd had something far more valuable to her. Total control. Uncompromised control. And that trade-off control over speed became this huge long-term advantage. Think about it. Every decision, every product detail, every word on the packaging, it was all hers.
She even filed a patent herself.
I know, didn't hire expensive lawyers, just bought a DIY patent book and figured it out. That tells you so much about her determination.
Absolutely. Resourcefulness to the max.
And after getting rejected relentlessly by all those hosiery mills, mostly run by men who just didn't get
I
it.
couldn't see the need, right?
Nope. She finally got a break with one factory owner. And the kicker, it wasn't because he suddenly saw the light. It was because his daughters told him they loved the idea.
Wow. So the actual end users convinced him.
Exactly. That breakthrough came from sheer persistence and really understanding the personal problem she was solving.
And once she got that first yes, she didn't just talk the talk, she really lived her mantra. I treated my $5,000 as if it were $5 million. This wasn't just a clever line, it was her actual approach. She drove to Kinko's herself to print packaging mock-ups, cheaply.
Wow. Hands-on doesn't even begin to cover it.
She hustled her product into stores, literally pretending to be her own founder and her own PR team, doing whatever it took.
That's incredible hustle.
This disciplined bootstrapping wasn't just because she had no money, it became the bedrock of the whole empire. It forced creativity. It forced resourcefulness that money just can't buy. And you have to wonder, right? Did that early frugality, that hustle, just bake habits into her that served her well, even when Spanx got huge?
I bet it did. Kept her grounded, focused on value, wary of unnecessary spending. It likely shaped the whole company culture. So bringing this first section together, it's so clear her financial mindset wasn't just about racking up dollars, not about chasing wealth for its own sake.
No, it was deeper.
Much deeper. It was about fiercely protecting her power to say no. That 100% ownership for over 20 years meant every single decision was hers, alone. She understood that real wealth for her wasn't just the bank balance. It was the autonomy it gave her, the freedom to build exactly what she envisioned without compromise.
Like her quote, money isn't the goal, control is, impact is.
And purpose is what gives money value, not the other way around.
Exactly. She totally redefined wealth, not by quantity, but by its quality and the freedom it provided. Which really makes you, the listener, pause and think about your own relationship with money, doesn't it? Is it just a means to an end, a tool for purpose? Or has it maybe become the end goal itself?
Okay, moving from finance to her career strategy and how she built that wealth, her journey really shows how those seemingly unrelated, even tough experiences can be the best training ground. Before Spanx, remember those 7 years, walking around in the Florida heat, selling fax machines door to door.
Most people would have quit that job so fast, weeks, maybe months.
But she stuck it out for 7 years. She calls it her unlikely MBA. Ah, love that.
Every slammed door, every forced smile, it was all training. Not just learning to handle rejection, but mastering the art of it.
Building that thick skin.
Incredible resilience.
Yeah.
Sharpened her ability to read people, pivot under pressure, just keep standing when everything says quit. It's such a powerful lesson, isn't it? How those difficult detours in your past can actually be preparing you for your real calling.
And that resilience, that observation skill led directly to the famous aha moment. What's great is that it wasn't from market research or focus groups.
No, super personal.
Totally personal, standing in her bedroom closet, getting ready for a party, wanting to wear white pants but hating the underwear lines.
We've all been there.
Right. So, flash of intuition, grabs control top pantyhose, cuts the feet off, puts them on, instant effect. Smoother lines, more confidence. But here's the genius. She didn't just solve her own problem. She saw the huge blind spot in the market. Nobody was making undergarments that actually work for real women's lives, addressing this super common frustration.
It makes you wonder, how many blind spots are we missing just because we put up with small, everyday annoyances?
Exactly. Those little frustrations could be massive opportunities waiting.
That's the difference, isn't it? Most people would just sigh, pick different pants, move on. Sara Blakely leaned in, became strategically obsessed. She didn't just have an idea, she chased it relentlessly. Deep dives into hosiery design, patents, figuring out why existing products failed.
The reverse engineering part is key.
Totally. And she spent her nights cold calling manufacturers from her apartment, using that fake company name, Spanx, to sound legit.
Huh. Love the origin of the name. Just fun and makes people smile at first.
But later admitting the strategic K sound, like Kodak, Coca-Cola, even the name was calculated but playful.
Smart.
And then comes maybe the boldest move. After months of rejection from factories, she finds the one guy willing to try, thanks to his daughters.
Right, the daughters save the day.
So she gets her prototype, drives everywhere, begging buyers to look. Many laughs her off, but one buyer at Neiman Marcus agrees to meet. And here's where it gets really good. Sara asks the buyer to come into the bathroom with her.
Wait, seriously? Into the restroom?
Yep, so she could personally show her, right there, what Spanx did under her own clothes. That bold, awkward, totally unforgettable demo in a department store bathroom landed her first huge account.
Wow. That takes guts. Forget the PowerPoint slides.
Exactly. Shows what authenticity and just sheer nerve can do.
But the real breakthrough, the moment that put Spanx truly on the map, was 2000. Again, not a complex campaign.
The Oprah effect.
The Oprah effect. She sent a simple gift basket to Oprah's team. Weeks later, boom. Spanx is one of Oprah's favorite things. Sales go absolutely nuclear overnight.
Incredible exposure.
But here's the critical part. What happened after that explosion? Unlike so many others who chase that rocket ship, raise VC money, scale like crazy, Sara didn't. She held back. She held back. Grew Spanx slowly, deliberately. Kept it private, kept it profitable. It goes right back to that core financial mindset, ownership and control. She wasn't swayed by hypergrowth if it meant losing autonomy in the result. By age 41, she was the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world. Not because she moved fastest, because she moved smartest. She built her wealth not through funding rounds or early exits, but by creating real value for real people and owning every single piece of that value chain.
So what does this whole career strategy piece mean for you, the listener? Her journey wasn't about a quick flip or impressing VCs. Her primary goal was simple: serve women better than anyone else. Solve a real problem. And she trusted that wealth would follow as a byproduct of that service. It's a huge lesson, right? Focus on genuine value. Solve real problems instead of getting caught up in chasing validation or funding.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the things that really made her different. Her success habits and unique behaviors. Most people think success is just about what you do, the actions. But for Sara, it seems just as much about what you refuse to unlearn, the principles you stick to. Imagine this. Long before Spanx, her dad had this amazing nightly ritual.
Oh yeah, the failure question.
Exactly. At dinner, he'd ask her and her brother, "What did you fail at today?" And if they had nothing, he wasn't happy. He was actually disappointed.
Which sounds so counterintuitive. Totally.
Hmm.
But he wanted them to stretch, take risks, push boundaries. Not fear failure, but embrace it as proof they were trying. And that one habit just completely rewired Sarah's relationship with failure. Instead of fearing it, she chased it. Instead of hiding from it, she welcomed it as part of growth.
That mindset became her anchor, right?
Totally. In those early Spanx days, with constant rejection, it wasn't an obstacle. It was a sign she was doing something important. When hosiery execs laughed her off the phone, she laughed back.
Because she'd practiced failing.
Exactly. When people said women would never buy footless pantyhose, she thought, okay, then I'll show them. It wasn't arrogance. It was that stubborn faith that only comes from practicing failure. Makes you think, how can you reframe failure? See it as growth.
Her approach to building the company was also really different. While others hired tons of MBAs and scaled like mad.
She stayed lean, super lean.
For as long as possible. In the beginning, she wasn't just the founder. She was the designer, marketer, salesperson, packager, all of it.
That image of her wrapping the first 1,000 units herself in plastic bags, then red boxes with handwritten notes.
Iconic. Her goal wasn't just shipping a product. It was shipping delight.
So the takeaway there, the incredible power of personal touch, obsessive attention to detail, especially early on.
Right.
Money can't replicate that connection. And then there was her wardrobe, the uniform.
The black turtleneck and white pants?
Yep. For years, almost every pitch, every photo shoot, every interview. Not about fashion. It was a psychological statement.
Oh, so.
The white pants symbolized the problem she solved, the lines showing. The black top was a simple canvas. Together, it was her quiet battle armor, a constant visual reminder of her mission for her and everyone else.
Like aligning outer presentation with inner purpose. Clever. One of her most distinctive habits, though, was talking to herself in the mirror every morning.
The affirmation.
Yeah. Standing there, looking herself in the eye, saying things aloud like, you are going to change the world. You are going to make women feel better. You are going to do something no one has ever done. She didn't see them as just mantras. She called them scripts for her subconscious. Daily rehearsals for a life that didn't exist yet, but she was willing into being.
Wow.
What's fascinating is how consciously she cultivated her inner belief system, treated it like vital daily work. It really highlights the power of self-talk and intentional mindset work. Often underestimated, I think.
Even her hiring was unconventional. She didn't obsess over credentials or fancy degrees.
What did she look for?
Energy. She wanted people who could laugh, who had grit, who'd jump into startup chaos with a smile. And then the loyalty piece. She's stayed incredibly loyal to those early hires. Many are still there today, decades later.
That's rare.
Totally. So the lesson, building a team on shared values and spirit, not just skills, creates this incredibly resilient, unique culture.
And maybe the most unique habit of all, her refusal to let success harden her, to become detached. Think about the sale in 2021, $1.2 billion valuation. How does she celebrate?
Not with a lavish party for herself.
Nope. She stunned every single employee, around 500 people, with 2 first-class plane tickets anywhere in the world, plus $10,000 cash.
That's incredible generosity.
Her reason. I want every woman to feel what it's like to be treated like a queen. It wasn't just a bonus, it was the culmination of her philosophy. Proof that wealth, held with purpose, can ripple out and empower others. It really makes you ask, how often do leaders truly live their stated values, especially at the absolute peak? Sara Blakely did, unequivocally.
Okay, let's dive into her life philosophy, her decision-making framework. If you ask Sara how she makes big choices, she wouldn't likely pull out a spreadsheet.
No complex risk analysis model.
Probably not. She'd talk about gut feelings, intuition. That quiet inner voice that speaks before logic jumps in. In a world obsessed with data, her philosophy is almost radically simple. The universe has your back if you stay true to your purpose. Data matters, sure, but instinct leads.
And that guiding belief wasn't formed in boardrooms, it was forged in silence.
The silent retreat.
Yeah, in her 20s. A 7-day silent retreat. Pretty radical for a social person. A deliberate unplugging. And in that stillness, away from all the noise, she started to hear something deeper. A pull towards creating something that mattered, something hers.
Ah, so that's where the seed was planted.
It seems so. From then on, she didn't just chase an idea, she protected it, nurtured it, treated it like a calling, not just a business. What's fascinating is how that internal introspective act directly shaped her external entrepreneurial path.
Underscores the value of disconnecting to reconnect with purpose. And that intuition flowed into everything, even branding. Naming Spanx, you didn't hire a fancy agency.
No, she just sat with a notebook, right?
Yep. Scribbled nonsense words until one made her laugh out loud. Spanx. Awkward, playful, a bit absurd.
Hmm.
But that was the point. She believed business didn't have to be stiff and serious to be powerful. The more personal, authentic, even whimsical it felt, the more it would resonate.
And she was right. The name was unforgettable. And that bright red packaging popped off the shelves. Instant attention grabber. Her decisions consistently reflected those core values, like turning down early offers to sell Spanx. Huge, life-changing money.
Why say no to that? Most would jump.
Because, she said, she wasn't done building. She hadn't finished the story yet. She believed Spanx could be more than just a product. It could be a platform for empowering women more broadly.
Wow, that's commitment to vision over immediate cash.
Unparalleled commitment, really. Walking away from massive wealth because the purpose was bigger, more enduring than just profit.
And that commitment led directly to keeping it 100% private for over 2 decades. Independence was key. While peers chased investors, valuations, quick exits, she focused on autonomy. She became a master of saying no.
No to deals that compromised vision.
No to advisors who didn't get her audience. And crucially, she said no to fear over and over. Her quote is so powerful. Fear of what people think is the #1 thing that holds us all back. Once you get over that, you're free.
That hits home, doesn't it?
Totally. It speaks to the incredible freedom and power that comes from conquering those external fears and staying true to your inner vision, even when it's the harder path.
And maybe the most striking example of this philosophy in action was joining the Giving Pledge in 2012.
Pledging at least half her wealth.
Yes. One of the youngest and one of very few women at the time to make that huge public commitment. But for her, it wasn't radical. It was just alignment. If she built her fortune helping women feel powerful in their skin, she felt she had to use it to help them feel powerful in their lives, too.
So it connected directly back to the original purpose.
Seamlessly. It wasn't just giving back. It was integrating her purpose into her philanthropy. It really makes you question how deeply founders weave their personal values into their financial and philanthropic strategies. Is it truly integrated?
So, summarizing her philosophy, it's not just vague believing yourself. It's about listening closely enough to know what you really believe deep down, and then being brave enough to follow it, even if nobody else gets it. Her success didn't come from perfect decisions. Nobody makes those. It came from consistent alignment, harmony between what she felt, what she built, and what she stood for. Every step. All right, let's talk about power thinking and social influence. What's fascinating is she never actually set out to be a celebrity or a public figure. In a world where influence is often loud, curated, performative, her quiet confidence became its own kind of power.
How so?
She didn't dominate headlines or flood Instagram with perfect success shots. She became a force through presence. She knew who she was and didn't need to prove it. It wasn't trying to be perfect. She tried to be real, vulnerable, human.
Yeah.
That made her magnetic.
Thinking back to that Oprah feature in 2000, it wasn't just a business boost. Strategically, it was a credibility transfer.
Oprah's trust transferred to Spanx.
Exactly, but why did Oprah endorse it? That's key. Sara didn't just pitch a product. She told a story about confidence, frustration, fixing something millions of women silently endured. She tapped into this deep emotional current that no marketing budget could replicate.
It's a huge insight.
Totally. It shows how the most powerful influence often comes from genuine narrative, shared experience, not aggressive sales tactics. The power of personal story is immense.
And as Spanx grew, so did her influence. But she used it differently, not just building a brand, but building a platform for female empowerment. The Spanx by Sara Blakely Foundation, donating millions to support women's education, entrepreneurship, leadership.
Real impact.
Like in 2020, during the pandemic peak, pledging that $5 million through the Red Backpack Fund to support female entrepreneurs struggling to survive. No big PR push, just a clear message through action. I see you. I believe in you. It felt personal, not corporate.
Which brings us back to that incredible $1.2 billion gesture after the Blackstone sale. The first-class tickets, the $10,000 cash for every employee. Her reason: I want every woman to feel what it's like to be treated like a queen. It wasn't just a bonus, it was the ultimate embodiment of her philosophy. Proof that wealth, held with purpose, can ripple out and lift others.
It really showed her empowerment philosophy wasn't just marketing talk.
Not at all. It was deeply embedded in her actions, even at the highest level of success. The takeaway for you, the listener: true influence isn't just what you achieve for yourself. It's how you use that achievement to empower others.
She also just completely redefined what power looks like in leadership. She was unapologetically human, crying in meetings sometimes, cracking jokes in boardrooms.
Showing vulnerability.
Exactly. Talking openly about Insecurity, rejection, imposter syndrome, not as weaknesses, but as part of the process. She became a role model not because she had all the answers, but because she dared to show the questions, the struggles, the messy reality of building something great. Her story is studied at Harvard Business School now. TED Talks, Times 100 most influential Shark Tank appearances.
Huge recognition.
Yet somehow she stayed grounded. Still, fundamentally, the same woman who once stood in that department store bathroom, lifting her pant leg to prove her idea. That authenticity is her superpower.
Ultimately, her power thinking wasn't about outsmarting the system or playing by old rules. It was about outlasting the doubt.
Internal doubt, external doubt.
All of it. Her method was simple but effective. Show up authentically, tell the truth, build from the inside out with integrity. By doing that, she turned influence into real impact. And she cleared a path, made space for a new generation of women to do the same.
Okay, final section. Her crisis strategy and that long-term game. When the world shut down in 2020, pandemic hits. A lot of companies froze, paralyzed. Sara Blakely did the opposite. She leaned in.
How did she approach it?
Stores closed, spending habits changed overnight. Spanx faced huge uncertainty, sales dropped, supply chains got messy, future looked bleak. But she didn't panic. She paused and asked that fundamental question again. What do women need now? The answer wasn't more shapewear. It was compassion. Within weeks, she pledged that $5 million in direct grants to female entrepreneurs through the Red Backpack Fund.
That was incredibly fast.
And deeply personal, not PR. She knew how fragile a dream can be, how one closed door, one missed payment can undo years of work. Thousands of women got not just money but validation. A billionaire believed in them, saw their struggle, offered help.
So crisis didn't create her character.
It revealed it. It made her double down on her core mission, empowerment.
And that crisis strategy wasn't just reactive. It was rooted in how she built the company from day one.
The private ownership piece again.
Exactly. Unlike founders chasing hypergrowth through debt and dilution, she'd kept Spanx private for 20-plus years. Grew slowly, profitably, with discipline. So when the crisis hit, she wasn't over-leveraged, wasn't beholden to investors demanding short-term results. She had room to adapt, pivot, absorb the shock without compromising.
It really makes you question that whole growth at all costs mentality.
Right. How does slower private growth actually provide a competitive advantage in uncertain times? It builds resilience. Companies fueled by debt often struggle much more in downturns.
And adapt she did. 2021, the world shifts to new workwear, the whole zoom from the waist up thing.
Yeah.
Spanx pivoted smartly.
Expanding the product lines.
Yep. From shaping garments to broader everyday comfort wear, activewear. She led that not by chasing trends, but by really listening to the emotional state, the shifting needs of her customers. That's why the Air Essentials collection in 2023 for that Zoom comfort sold out in days. She looked ahead too, anticipating culture. In 2024, they launched Sneaks, the sneaker heel hybrid.
Yes, saw that everywhere.
Huge TikTok success. Not from big ad spends, but real women sharing their joy. She saw comfort had become this new currency in women's lives and was ready for it. She anticipated a cultural gap, not just a market gap.
Even her exit strategy, selling the majority stake to Blackstone, was intentional. Not just signing and walking away. She negotiated hard, right, meticulously, protected brand values, stayed on as executive chairwoman, ensured employees shared in the upside, and crucially, retained enough ownership to keep Spanx's soul intact.
The deal wasn't an end, but a new beginning.
Exactly. More capital, more reach, but the same heart. Her long game extended even to the sale itself, ensuring the legacy and values endured.
So, wrapping up her long-term philosophy, it was never about winning fast. It was about building something that could truly last. Through recessions, rebrands, reinventions, she held steady, guided by that internal compass. Even now, worth over $1 billion, she talks about herself not as a mogul, but as a woman who saw a problem and just kept solving it, one season at a time.
That humility is striking.
Because in her world, crisis isn't disruption. It's direction. A callback to the mission, a test of what truly matters. So as we bring this deep dive full circle, it's so clear Sara Blakely's story isn't really about undergarments. It's about underdogs. It's about that quiet defiance of someone who didn't wait for permission or the perfect moment. She took $5,000, scissors, a personal frustration,
and sheer grit,
and ignited a global revolution. She didn't just disrupt an industry. She rewrote the definition of building a business with heart. In a world chasing virality and velocity, she chose patience, ownership, values over valuations, intuition over instruction. Humanity over hype.
That's why it lasted. That's why it thrived.
And why she became more than just a founder, she became an icon.
What's truly fascinating, I think, is how Sara Blakely became more than a founder. She became a mirror, a reflection of what happens when belief is louder than fear. When your inner conviction drowns out the external noise, her journey reminds all of us that wealth isn't the goal itself, it's a byproduct. What matters most is alignment.
Between who you are
What you create.
and why you started.
Exactly. When those three connect, the result isn't just money, it's movement. Real transformative movement.
So maybe the real secret of Sara Blakely isn't in the product or the pitch or even her incredible perseverance. Maybe the secret, the most powerful takeaway for all of us, is simply that she never stopped listening to that quiet, courageous voice inside that whispered, "Try anyway."
Okay.
If Sara Blakely's story resonated with you today, even just a little, please share this deep dive. Share it with someone who might be sitting on an idea, doubting their worth, waiting for that mythical right time. Remind them, you don't need millions to start. You just need the courage to begin.
That first step.
Exactly. And if you have a dream that scares you, like really scares you, that's the one worth chasing with everything you've got. Thanks for listening, and always remember, it's not how much you start with, it's how deeply you believe.